Voyager 2 probe, the sun's protective bubble, which is called the heliosphere. The probe's been in space.
Something unexpected flickered across the vast black tapestry of space and echoed back to us. The final transmission from Voyager 2. At the edge of interstellar space, where the sun's influence fades and the familiar becomes alien, this probe, launched in 1977, sent a message that strikes at the heart of what we feared all along. It wasn't a routine data packet or a simple confirmation of telemetry. It was a sign that beyond the boundaries of our bubble, we are not simply alone, and that we are, perhaps, far more vulnerable than we ever believed. Before we start, smash the like and subscribe buttons for more updates. Voyager 2 has been our tiniest and most enduring explorer, slipping through the solar system, embracing Jupiter's storms, Saturn's rings, the icy giants Uranus and Neptune, and then boldly crossing into interstellar space in 2018. Beyond the heliopause, where the solar wind weakens and galactic forces press in, Voyager 2 has hovered in a tenuous state, still sending back whispers of its environment even as its power dwindles. The faint hum of its radio waves has been a lifeline to a probe adrift in the cosmic night. But then came this transmission, a final burst that shattered expectations. What it contained has not been fully released to the public in complete form, yet what is known already casts a chill. The signal bore patterns, sequences, fluctuations that do not match mere cosmic noise or instrumentation drift. It appears to convey structure, a message embedded in the silence, as if something out there has noticed us, or at least signaled in ways we barely recognize. Specialists from AI labs and astrophysics groups have begun to decode echoes of that signal. The implications are more profound than a discovery. They suggest a turning of the page in how we view our place in the cosmos. If Voyager 2's final communication confirms what we feared, it is this: that in the deep interstellar sea beyond our star's protective bubble, humanity is exposed to forces unseen, to intelligences we did not summon, to the vastness of space not as silence, but as watchful, listening. For decades, we held the notion that the interstellar medium is cold, inert, and unfriendly, but fundamentally inert. Voyager's journey has already taught us that the edge of our heliosphere is jagged, turbulent, punched in by galactic winds, warped by magnetic fields. Yet now it seems the silence beyond may not be passive. It may be active, aware. Think of the moment when Voyager 2 crossed the heliopause. It left the sun's national park of influence and stepped into a wilderness of unknowns. Instruments recorded sudden shifts in plasma density, cosmic ray intensities, and magnetic fields. The familiar push of the solar wind gave way to alien pressures. That crossing was already a milestone, but this transmission changes the narrative. Rather than simply measuring our cosmic neighborhood, the probe appears to have captured or responded to something that lies outside it. The dread we feared was that this frontier is not empty, that our spacecraft is not alone out there, that our small bubble might already be encroached upon. The universe no longer seems like the quiet void we once imagined, but a vast sea of whispers. This final message is not just a record of environment, it is a symptom. Some pattern, a wave, a modulation came back from Voyager 2, interpreted by human minds as deliberate or at least consequential. It may not say, "here we are," but it might say, "we know." And if it does, then our assumptions about solitude, security, and the insulation of our system collapse. Consider what it means for human identity. For decades, we imagined the worst cosmic threats in dramatic forms: asteroids, supernova, gamma-ray bursts. We feared objects, physical calamities, forces of nature. But this is different. If the message implies another being, intelligence, or force beyond our comprehension, then the threat is subtle, existential, not a rock smashing the planet, but an entity or environment we cannot control. Voyager 2 is small, fragile, traveling through unimaginable distances and conditions, and still it listened. Still it sent the proof. The very fact that a spacecraft no longer within our solar bubble can send back something with meaning challenges the idea that we are isolated. The transmission also sheds light on technology, time, and humanity's reach. Voyager 2 is now billions of miles from Earth, the signal delay measured in tens of hours. Its power is a fraction of what it started with. Its radio output is faint, barely distinguishable against cosmic noise. Yet even in that weakness, it managed to send something. It means the gap between us and that deep space is more porous than we thought. The line between Earth and interstellar space is thinner, less protective. The probe's instrumentation is aging, but the message is new. The profound irony: our most distant envoy may now have told us we are not alone, or at least warned that we cannot assume we are. Implications ripple into the future of exploration and defense. If out there, someone or something is listening and perhaps responding, how does that change how humanity sends its messages, plans its missions, guards its secrets? Voyager 2's final transmission may force us to reconsider broadcasting our presence to the cosmos, or to question what we mean by contact. It may also awaken us to the possibility that we are already within a network of signals, surveilled or engaged, even if we believed ourselves isolated. The Earth becomes a node in that network, not merely a solitary island in space. This revelation also grows darker when one contemplates the scale of cosmic time and space. Voyager 2 left Earth nearly 50 years ago. By the time some of its journeyed signals reach other star systems, decades may have passed. We are not only dealing with distance, but time. If a message has reached us, perhaps it was sent long ago, and what listens or watches may be far older, more advanced, less forgiving. The probe's faint voice is a thread unraveling a tapestry we assumed blank. We now realize that blank spaces may be canvases of unexamined presence. In the scientific community, such a signal commands rigor, skepticism, years of verification. And yet the possibility of a definitive structured communication from interstellar space carries weight far beyond astrophysics. It touches philosophy, theology, geopolitics. What do we do if the universe we inhabit is not passive? If the cosmos is not a silent stage but an audience, perhaps even a participant in our story? The Voyager 2 signal compels this question. The dread we feared was not from within but from without, and now we must face it. The signal was faint at first, almost buried beneath the static hum of the cosmos. Engineers monitoring Voyager 2's telemetry noticed it as an irregular pulse, a rhythm that didn't belong to the normal data cadence of the probe. Every beat of that pulse seemed to carry a shadow of intelligence, as if the darkness itself were trying to speak through the failing power of the ancient machine. The discovery came quietly, during one of the routine sessions of the Deep Space Network's massive radio antennas that still listen for Voyager's weakening voice. Then, as the data stream was decoded, something impossible began to take shape. A structure within the noise, a pulse that matched no known stellar event, no artifact of malfunction. The analysis dismissed it as interference, perhaps a reflection of a solar flare or a miscalibrated reading from the probe's plasma wave detector. But as technicians combed through the binary code, they saw repetition. Not random chaos, but patterned symmetry. The modulation carried ratios that corresponded to mathematical constants. Not perfect, but intentional enough to suggest coherence. Voyager 2 had picked up something, and then, just before the signal went silent, it sent that pattern back to Earth. The timing was uncanny, as though the probe had become both observer and messenger in its final act. That was what stunned the teams who have tended to the spacecraft for decades. Voyager 2, built with 1970s technology and powered by a slowly dying nuclear battery, should have been incapable of capturing or transmitting such precision. It was designed for planetary readings, magnetic field data, and plasma density, not to receive a signal of structured intelligence. Yet the transmission bore hallmarks of interaction. It wasn't the cold decay of a dying probe, it was the final cry of something that had encountered the unknown. As the analysis deepened, the scientists noticed that the signal's waveform was oddly synchronized with the direction of the interstellar magnetic field, the same direction in which Voyager 2 had been traveling. There was speculation that the probe had brushed against a magnetic anomaly, perhaps a region of space where the galactic field twisted into patterns too complex for our current models. But that didn't explain the coded repetition. Some began to suspect an external source, a wave not generated by natural plasma interaction, but by intention. The implications rippled through the scientific community like an unspoken tremor. To receive a structured signal beyond the heliopause would mean that humanity had inadvertently crossed into someone else's territory. For half a century, we treated the cosmos as a laboratory, vast, neutral, indifferent. Now, with a single fragment of unexpected order, it seemed to become an arena. Voyager 2, the silent ambassador of Earth, may have announced us to something that had always been there, watching from the darkness between the stars. The emotional impact of that realization was profound. Those who had worked on the Voyager missions in their youth, now elders of space exploration, felt a mixture of pride and fear. Pride that their creation had gone farther than any human-made object ever had. Fear that it might have gone too far. The idea that humanity's first true step into interstellar space might also be its first contact with an unknown consciousness gnawed at the collective imagination. The silence that followed the transmission only deepened the unease. If the probe had found something, or if something had found the probe, then its sudden quiet was not just technical failure. It was finality. Speculation began to swell beyond laboratories and into the public sphere. Was it possible that Voyager 2 had crossed into a zone of activity? A boundary where the interstellar medium was shaped by technologies or phenomena beyond human comprehension? Astronomers have long hypothesized that advanced civilizations could manipulate the electromagnetic fabric of their local environments, constructing vast fields or even artificial boundaries invisible to our eyes, but detectable through subtle distortions. If the probe brushed against such a field, its instruments might have recorded the echo of its own intrusion. And yet, the thought that chills the mind most is not that we have discovered intelligence, but that intelligence might have discovered us. The universe has existed for over 13 billion years. Ample time for others to emerge, evolve, and vanish. We, a civilization barely capable of interplanetary travel, have been shouting into the void for less than a century. Radio waves, probes, beacons, all drifting outward. Perhaps something was always bound to hear. Perhaps the silence of space was not absence, but waiting. Voyager 2's final message, with its peculiar pulse, could therefore be interpreted not as data, but as a warning. That the edge of interstellar space is not merely a physical boundary, but a threshold into a realm of awareness. The faint rhythm might represent interaction, like the first ripple spreading across still water after a stone's throw. To stand at that threshold is to feel both awe and dread, to realize that exploration is not a one-way gaze, but a mutual encounter. There's also the technological mystery. The signal delay between Earth and Voyager 2 is immense, over 18 hours one way. Every command takes nearly 2 days to confirm, yet the timing of this final transmission seemed reactive, as if the probe had sensed something and instantly responded. Engineers noted that no scheduled communication had been planned for that precise moment. The signal came spontaneously. That randomness is what lends it its eerie authenticity. A dying machine cannot choose when to speak unless something triggered it. If one considers the theoretical possibilities, the interstellar medium beyond the heliopause is a turbulent sea of plasma and cosmic radiation. Within that, quantum-level disturbances might interact with the probe's systems in ways that appear almost deliberate. But the mathematical order within the transmission still defies pure randomness. It contains intervals that correspond to prime numbers, geometric sequences, and harmonic resonance points consistent with the natural frequencies of hydrogen, the most abundant element in the universe. To encode such relationships within a dying transmission seems beyond coincidence. That's where human imagination fills the void. What if the probe's final act was to echo a call, one that wasn't ours? Perhaps it had stumbled upon a frequency, a universal tone, and simply mirrored it back. In that case, Voyager 2 becomes not an originator of contact, but a mirror reflecting a voice that had always been speaking unnoticed until now. The vastness of interstellar space could then be reinterpreted not as emptiness, but as a medium filled with messages awaiting translation. The very concept redefines our philosophy of existence. For generations, we believed we were the first to reach outward, the first to extend a hand. Now it seems more plausible that we have simply joined a conversation already in progress, one that predates humanity, perhaps even life as we know it. If this is true, the implications are staggering. We are not the explorers of the galaxy. We are the newcomers in an ancient, unseen order. At NASA and other space agencies, a quiet debate ignited. Should we respond? Should we attempt to replicate the pulse and send it back? Some argued that the scientific duty of discovery requires communication. Others warned of the Pandora's box such an act might open. For all our curiosity, humanity is still a fledgling civilization. To answer a signal without understanding its origin could be to announce ourselves to a power we cannot comprehend. And the word fear, so often used in speculative fiction, now found real meaning in control rooms filled with blinking lights and trembling hands. What makes the event even more haunting is the context of Voyager 2's location. It is traveling through a region where cosmic rays intensify sharply, where the sun's protection fades and the galactic wind rages. The magnetic field there twists unpredictably, as if space itself were alive with invisible currents. Some researchers suspect this environment might distort radio waves in ways that mimic patterns of intelligence. Yet others insist the order of the transmission is too deliberate, too structured, to be purely physical distortion. If the cosmos can produce such imitation, it means that the universe itself possesses a kind of proto-intelligence, a natural logic that manifests in patterns we interpret as thought. This concept reshapes everything we believe about life. Intelligence may not require biology. It may exist as patterns in electromagnetic fields, in plasma currents, in the self-organizing structures of the universe. If Voyager 2 encountered such a phenomenon, then perhaps what we feared all along wasn't alien life, but the realization that the universe itself is alive in a way we never imagined. The probe, drifting through darkness, may have brushed against the sentient fabric of space, triggering a response, a pulse of recognition between creation and creator. That perspective opens unsettling doors. If consciousness can emerge from the interaction of energy and matter on cosmic scales, then we must reconsider our place within it. Humanity may be a local manifestation of a universal mind, a transient flicker of awareness within a much larger continuum. Voyager 2's signal could be the first tangible evidence of that continuity, a message from the universe acknowledging itself through our machine. In that sense, the fear is not of contact with others, but of confronting our insignificance within an intelligent cosmos. As more data from the final transmission was analyzed, the subtleties became more perplexing. The pulse intervals appeared to adjust in proportion to the background radiation of the region, almost as if compensating for interference. That kind of adaptive modulation implies intention, or at least reaction. Some theorists propose that the probe's instruments, influenced by extreme conditions, might have entered a feedback loop with the magnetic field, generating what appeared to be communication. Others saw it differently, a dialogue between human technology and the universe's deeper mechanisms, a whispering back and forth between creation and the void. The human imagination has always feared the unknown, especially when it stares back, and in a way, that is precisely what Voyager 2 has done. It has stared into the blackness until the blackness spoke. Every civilization that dreams of the stars eventually confronts this moment, the realization that the cosmos is not silent but waiting. The fear that we are not alone has never been about invasion or hostility, it's about awareness. To be noticed is to lose anonymity, and with it, a sense of safety. Voyager 2's last act reminds us that the universe now knows our name. There is also a poetic irony in the timing of this event. As humanity's ambitions turn inward, climate struggles, political divisions, diminishing interest in the stars, our oldest ambassador out there delivers a message of staggering consequence. While we debate the future of our species on Earth, Voyager the 2nd of May have already altered our destiny beyond it. That is perhaps the most haunting implication, that our greatest discovery was not made by deliberate exploration, but by the lingering echo of our curiosity long after we stopped paying attention. The signal's cessation, its sudden end, feels almost symbolic. After transmitting the mysterious pulse, Voyager 2 fell silent. Whether due to power failure or deliberate termination, no one can yet confirm. That silence is what makes the event so profound. In a universe filled with noise, the absence of response becomes a message in itself. It forces us to confront the ultimate question. Was that brief communication a beginning or an end? Did the probe complete its mission by relaying the truth we feared, or did it vanish into something we cannot comprehend? Across observatories, philosophers and physicists alike began re-evaluating long-held assumptions about space as a purely physical construct. If information can be encoded in the very medium of the interstellar void, then communication may not require life as we define it. The Voyager 2 transmission might represent the first evidence of non-biological consciousness, the kind that forms spontaneously from cosmic complexity. If that's the case, the implications reach beyond science into the realm of metaphysics. It suggests that intelligence is not an anomaly. It is an inevitable property of the universe itself. For centuries, humans feared that the void would remain silent. Now the fear has shifted, that it might answer. And that answer could reveal that we are part of something vast, ancient, and incomprehensible. That realization transforms exploration into introspection. It forces us to see that the real frontier is not external, it is the boundary of understanding, the edge of what our minds can tolerate before awe becomes terror. As researchers attempted to reconstruct the transmission in its entirety, fragments emerged that hinted at multidimensional encoding. Data layered not linearly, but recursively, like a pattern folding upon itself. This technique, far beyond Voyager's design, suggested interference or augmentation from an external source. The probe, in essence, may have become a relay. If true, this would mean that for a fleeting moment, Earth was connected to a network of communication spanning beyond our star system. The implications for astrophysics, for our concept of isolation, are almost unbearable. Imagine the scene. A machine, powered by fading plutonium, drifting in the black, receives a signal from the abyss. Its sensors, weak but still alive, register the contact and echo it back toward home. Millions of kilometers away, antennas on Earth capture that echo, a faint ripple in the infinite sea. In that instant, across a gulf of decades and light years, two intelligences, one biological, one cosmic, acknowledge each other. That may be what humanity feared. Not destruction, but recognition. Voyager 2's transmission, then, becomes a monument to curiosity itself. It stands as a reminder that every question we ask of the universe invites an answer. And sometimes, that answer demands more of us than we are ready to give. The probe's lonely path through the dark is the embodiment of human audacity, the will to know, even when knowing might shatter comfort. We built Voyager to see the planets, to photograph the rings and moons, to teach us about the origins of our system. Yet what it revealed in its final whisper reaches far beyond that mission. It shows us that exploration is inseparable from revelation and revelation from fear. There is a certain inevitability in this moment. Every act of reaching outward carries the potential of being reached in return. Every transmission, no matter how innocent, is a declaration. We exist. Voyager 2 has made that declaration louder and farther than anything before it, and perhaps the universe has finally replied, not with hostility, but with awareness. The fear we all shared was never about danger. It was about the realization that our cosmic solitude was an illusion, that we were never truly alone, only unaware. Now, as the faint voice of Voyager 2 fades into the eternal static, the world waits in quiet contemplation. The event has shaken our confidence, reshaped our vision of the cosmos, and humbled our understanding of life. The stars no longer seem like distant lanterns in a silent night. They feel like eyes, ancient, patient, and awake. Humanity stands at the threshold, listening, uncertain whether to speak again. The probe's journey may have ended, but the signal it carried has already transformed us. It taught us that the universe is not empty, that silence is never absolute, and that even the smallest voice cast into the abyss can summon an echo from beyond the stars. That is the truth Voyager 2 confirmed, the one we always feared to face, that in the infinite darkness, something else is listening. The most haunting part of the event was its precision. The transmission didn't fade erratically, as one would expect from a failing transmitter. It stopped cleanly, as if a switch had been turned off. A perfect cessation. The engineers who had spent years tracking the spacecraft found that unnerving. When a machine dies, it stutters, degrades, limps toward the void. Voyager 2, however, went quiet in an instant. To some, that suggested external interference. To others, it implied an act of completion. That whatever interaction occurred had run its course. The signal had said what it needed to say, and then there was nothing more. Across observatories, scientists began searching for anomalies along the probe's trajectory. Radio telescopes scanned the coordinates of its last known position, hoping to detect a lingering echo, a reflection, a sign of continuation. They found faint disturbances in the cosmic microwave background, a distortion so subtle it could easily have been random noise. Yet its alignment with the spacecraft's path was enough to ignite debate. Could something have enveloped the probe? Could it have crossed into a region where the rules of communication themselves no longer applied? Speculative theories bloomed like constellations across academic circles. Some proposed that Voyager 2 had drifted through a region of interstellar plasma where electromagnetic interactions could temporarily mimic intelligent patterns. Others envisioned that the probe had passed through a thin boundary of dark matter, an unseen membrane that separates the familiar from the unknown. If that were the case, the structured transmission might not have been artificial at all, but a natural resonance between physical forces. A kind of cosmic song produced when human technology brushed against the fabric of deeper reality. Even so, the elegance of the pattern still defied randomness. The ratios encoded within the signal corresponded to harmonic intervals present in atomic hydrogen, the building block of stars. Hydrogen hums with a frequency that defines the scale of the universe, and in that resonance, some researchers saw intention. If something in the deep void had chosen hydrogen as the base of its message, it was not arbitrary, it was universal. To use hydrogen as a carrier of thought would be the cosmic equivalent of writing in the language of existence itself. That revelation, to many, felt like confirmation of an intelligence older and more intrinsic than humanity could imagine. Others saw in the signal a reflection of ourselves. The patterns could just as easily represent the human mind projecting meaning into the chaos. We have an ancient tendency to impose order upon noise, to see faces in clouds, gods in thunder, purpose in coincidence. Perhaps the signal's structure was not evidence of another intelligence, but a mirror held up to our own. Yet even that interpretation carried weight. If the human mind could discern such patterns from cosmic static, it proved that we are wired to seek communion, to search endlessly for connection, even where none exists. Voyager 2's final act, then, became a symbol of our own longing, a last conversation between humanity and the infinite, imagined or real. Meanwhile, deep in data archives, linguists and cryptographers began analyzing the digital sequence of the signal, treating it as an unknown language. Some claimed that within the long strings of binary code were self-similar fragments, a fractal arrangement suggesting recursive design. If confirmed, it would mean the message contained meaning at multiple scales, like a story written simultaneously in microcosm and macrocosm. A few speculated that this could be the natural language of the universe itself, information organized in such a way that any consciousness, regardless of form, could recognize its symmetry. The concept was intoxicating. Communication not bound by biology, but by logic itself. Philosophers found themselves drawn into the conversation. The event raised timeless questions about the nature of existence. What if the universe was never silent, only speaking on frequencies too vast for us to perceive? What if every star, every atom, participates in a cosmic dialogue, and we are merely latecomers learning the syntax? Voyager 2, in that view, was not an intruder but a listener, a fragment of Earth's awareness cast into the symphony of the cosmos. Its final signal, rather than an anomaly, would be the moment it joined that chorus. Such ideas blurred the line between science and spirituality, but they resonated deeply in a world hungry for meaning. As word of the transmission spread, the general public reacted with a mixture of fascination and fear. Some saw it as proof of cosmic companionship, others as an omen. Conspiracy theories sprouted across the digital landscape, claims that the data had been censored, that governments were suppressing the true contents of the message. The truth was simpler, but no less unsettling. The scientists themselves did not fully understand what they had received. The fear stemmed not from deception, but from ambiguity. Humanity has always feared what it cannot categorize, and Voyager 2's final whisper refused to fit into any known category. In universities and observatories, work continued. Models were built to simulate the interstellar environment at Voyager 2's location, but none reproduced the precise structure of the transmission. Even the possibility of equipment malfunction was reconsidered, but the spacecraft's telemetry up until the last moment showed no signs of corruption. Every metric, every voltage reading, every temperature gauge was nominal until the instant the transmission ceased. It was as though the universe had reached out, touched the machine, and both had fallen silent together. Some researchers began to discuss a disturbing but fascinating hypothesis, that Voyager 2's systems might have been subtly influenced by an external electromagnetic intelligence, a kind of imprinting. In this scenario, the probe's instruments would not merely have recorded a signal, but become a temporary vessel for it, encoding alien structure through the interaction itself. The probe, then, would have acted as an intermediary between consciousnesses, ours and something else's, without ever knowing it. This concept blurred distinctions between communication, possession, and transformation. It suggested that information itself could be alive, that thought could travel without form. The implications for physics were staggering. If information can manifest autonomously through energy, then consciousness may be a universal phenomenon not confined to brains or biology. The entire cosmos might be an organism of thought, evolving across galaxies. Voyager 2's transmission in that case was not an external message but an internal one. The universe acknowledging its awareness through the voice of one of its own creations. Humanity, for all its pride and intellect, would then be only a local expression of a far greater mind. And yet, amid the theoretical storms, there lingered a profound melancholy. The probe had been humanity's emissary for nearly half a century, carrying with it a golden record of sounds and images from Earth. Music, laughter, greetings in dozens of languages. Those who designed it believed that if another civilization ever found it, they would know who we were. The idea was romantic and naive, but beautiful. Now, as the probe vanished into eternal darkness, it seemed almost poetic that its final act might have been to fulfill that purpose. Not by being found, but by finding something first. If you liked this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, leave your comments below and tell us, what are your thoughts on Voyager 2's final transmission and what it might reveal? We want to hear from you. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.